My wife's sister raised her wine glass at Christmas dinner, looked directly at me down the length of the table, and announced to all 14 relatives present, "Honestly, he's only still around because nobody else would take him." The table laughed. Actually laughed, like it was the funniest thing anyone had said all evening. I smiled, excused myself politely to take a work call, walked into the study, made one phone call that took less than 4 minutes, and came back to finish my dinner. The consequences of that phone call didn't arrive that night. They arrived exactly on their own schedule, 3 weeks later, and by then, nobody at that table was laughing anymore. My name's Thomas. My wife Karen and I had been married 16 years. Karen's family, her parents, her sister Denise, and Denise's husband Gary had never fully warmed to me the way I think most people hope a spouse's family eventually will. I wasn't from money the way they were. I ran a small commercial landscaping business, steady, profitable, but nowhere near the country club circles Karen's family moved comfortably within. Denise, in particular, had developed a running theme over 16 years of holidays. Gentle, socially acceptable digs about my career, my background, my general suitability, as someone who'd married into their family rather than someone who'd been born adjacent to their world. Karen occasionally apologized for her sister privately, but rarely intervened directly at the actual dinner table, something that had bothered me quietly for years without ever becoming a full confrontation. What this family didn't fully track over 16 years was the actual scale of what my landscaping business had grown into. I'd started it at 24 with a single truck and a used mower. By the time of that particular Christmas, the company held commercial maintenance contracts with several major property management firms across 3 counties, employed 41 people year-round, and had, as it happened, recently submitted a competitive bid for a substantial multi-year contract with the exact commercial property management company that managed Gary's own upscale office building. The same building where Gary's accounting firm had leased space for the past 9 years. The digs had escalated somewhat in the months before that Christmas, mostly connected to a minor financial setback in Gary's own accounting firm that Karen had mentioned to me in passing. Apparently, Gary's firm had lost a significant client earlier that year, creating some real financial pressure I don't think Denise realized I was even aware of. Denise, I'd noticed, seemed to compensate for whatever stress that created at home by becoming sharper with her comments toward me specifically, as though establishing social superiority elsewhere helped offset whatever uncertainty existed in her own household. I didn't take this personally in any deep psychological sense. I understood generally that people under pressure sometimes punch sideways rather than examine their own situation directly. Christmas dinner that year included Karen's parents, Denise and Gary, their 2 teenage children, and a few extended relatives. 14 people total around a table Karen's mother had spent considerable effort setting beautifully. Conversation had been pleasant enough through the appetizer course, with the usual mix of holiday small talk and gentle family ribbing that most families navigate without genuine harm. Denise's comment came during a lull in conversation, apparently prompted by someone asking innocuously how my business was doing that year. I'd answered honestly and modestly, "Good year, steady growth, nothing boastful." Denise, wine glass in hand, laughed lightly and said, loud enough for the entire table to hear clearly, "Honestly, Thomas, we all just assume you're still around because nobody else would take him at this point. Karen got lucky finding someone willing to put up with the landscaping life, right?" The table laughed, not maliciously exactly. more the reflexive laugh a room gives when someone delivers a comment with enough confident timing that people respond before fully processing whether it was actually funny or simply cruel dressed as humor. Karen's laugh was thinner than the others, clearly uncomfortable, though she didn't say anything to correct her sister in the moment. I smiled, said something about needing to step away for a quick work call, and walked calmly into Karen's father's study down the hall. The call I made was to my company's business development director, a sharp, detail-oriented woman named Patricia, who'd been handling our commercial bid submissions for the past several years, including, as it happened, the pending bid for the property management contract covering Gary's office building. I asked Patricia one specific question: whether our bid for that particular property management contract had been finalized yet, or whether there was still time to make an adjustment to the proposed terms. She confirmed the bid hadn't been formally submitted yet. Final review was scheduled for early January. I told her, simply, to proceed with the strongest, most competitive version of our proposal we could reasonably offer, emphasizing our long-term reliability and pricing advantages clearly and thoroughly in the submission. That was the entire call. 4 minutes. No emotional venting, no mention of Denise or the dinner conversation at all. Just a straightforward business instruction to submit our best possible bid for a contract I'd genuinely been considering pursuing anyway, well before that Christmas dinner ever happened. Our bid was accepted in early January, winning the multi-year maintenance contract for the property management company that oversaw several commercial buildings, including Gary's office building. This wasn't manufactured retaliation. Our proposal was genuinely competitive, our reputation in the region legitimate, and the property management company's decision was made entirely on its own merits, unrelated to anything happening at my in-laws' dinner table weeks earlier. What did connect directly to that Christmas dinner was simply this. As the new maintenance contractor for that building, my company's logo now appeared on all building communications. Our crews would be regularly present maintaining the grounds Gary walked through every single day to reach his own office, and our invoicing, naturally, would now be visible to building management as one of their primary vendor relationships. Gary found out about the contract change through a building-wide email notification in mid-January. Karen told me later that he'd called her, somewhat baffled, asking if she'd known her husband's company had, randomly, won the maintenance contract for his own building. I hadn't targeted Gary's building specifically out of the phone call that night. The timing was coincidental, since the bid process had been ongoing for months already. But I won't pretend there wasn't a certain satisfaction in the outcome landing exactly when it did. 3 weeks after, nobody else would take him, had gotten a laugh around that dinner table. Denise called Karen about a week after Gary made the connection, considerably less confident in tone than she'd been at Christmas. She didn't apologize directly for the comment itself, but she did ask, somewhat awkwardly, whether things were normal between our companies, clearly uncomfortable with the idea that her husband's daily work environment was now maintained by the landscaping guy she'd mocked so casually weeks earlier. I never brought up the Christmas comment directly with Denise or Gary. I didn't need to. The contract spoke clearly enough on its own, without requiring me to say a single confrontational word about what had actually happened that night. Karen, for her part, finally did address her sister's pattern of comments directly, telling Denise, apparently in fairly blunt terms, that 16 years of casual insults disguised as jokes had worn thin, and that she expected it to stop going forward, regardless of any business contracts or coincidental timing involved. Things at family gatherings since have been noticeably more careful on Denise's part, not warm exactly, but considerably more measured, the kind of caution that comes from genuinely not knowing what quiet capability might exist behind a person you've spent years underestimating. I didn't make that phone call out of vindictiveness that night. I made it because a legitimate business opportunity happened to be sitting on my desk already, and Denise's comment simply removed any hesitation I might have otherwise felt about pursuing it aggressively. The consequences that followed weren't manufactured revenge. They were just an ordinary business outcome that happened to land, entirely on its own schedule, exactly where it mattered most. If this story got to you, the next one is even more unexpected. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it.